Hello, welcome back to Happy Apple Core Homestead. As you can see, we have a really nice bunch of tomatoes here. Most of them, these are grape tomatoes, and then we have a combination of San Marzano and Amish paste. Yeah. So that's what we have here, and I'm gonna just take these over to the kitchen, get them scrubbed up, and we're gonna cut them probably in half, except for these. I usually just do a little nick in them. We're gonna throw them in a pot. We'll be canning these today, water bath method. So join me. I am back with clean tomatoes, and this is all there is to it. Just cut the stem end off. These are small, so you can just cut them in half. And into the pot they go. That's step one. I guess it's not that simple. We have many, many more steps ahead of us. Alright, now that you saw this step, I'm gonna go ahead and get these done and maybe wash up some more until my pot is full, and then I'll meet you back over at the stove. See you in a bit. Alright, I'm not sure if you can actually see my face, but I know you can hear my voice. I'll tell you what I'm doing now. I've got all of the tomatoes cut up, and they're in this pot. I'm just squeezing them out a little bit. I didn't add any water to this pot, and I don't want the bottom tomatoes to burn. This is just on, well, it was on a medium heat. I turned it off because it was getting super hot. It only needs to simmer for 5 minutes. We're really just loosening these tomatoes up. You can put a lid on or not, doesn't really matter at this point. So this is my KitchenAid. This is the fruit and vegetable strainer. This makes this process so much easier and so much more fun. As soon as this pot is done with its 5 minutes of simmer, as it gets up to heat here, we're gonna put all the tomatoes through this. You use the 2 bowls here. This bowl here, the sauce will come down, or really at this point it's just gonna be juice, will come down into this bowl, and all of the seeds and the skins will come out into this bowl, and then you can compost that or give it to your animals, whichever you prefer. Okay, I am going to just keep an eye on this pot for the next few minutes, and I will be back in just a little bit. Okay, here we are. Let me show you what this looks like. So it's just been simmering for 5 minutes, and it's already really juicy, which is perfect, just what we're looking for. Okay, now we're gonna turn on our KitchenAid. This tool here is just to kind of push food down if it gets stuck. And we're just gonna run everything in this pot straight through this mill. Watch out for the splatter! Alright. So, if you can see, sorry about all the camera movement. So here, all of the seeds and any stems and all the skins are coming out right here. And this will just be the pure juice. And when I get this whole pot done, we're gonna put the juice back into the pot and start cooking it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish getting everything in this pot into these bowls, and I'll check in with you in just a little bit. This pot is done, it's all been processed. This is the complete amount of extra seeds and skins that we got for this whole pot. And then this is the third bowl of juice that we've gotten. And I'm just putting it over here into this pot and getting it to start warming up. It's gonna take a pretty long time for the sauce to cook down to the consistency that we want. All right, while this is just dripping and this is heating up, I am going to wash the next batch of tomatoes, put it in the pot, do the same process all over again, and then I'll transfer all of the sauce into this big pot and it will be full at that point, most likely. And then we'll go ahead and get going on the next step. So I will see you in just a little bit. Okay, we're back. All of the tomato juice is in this pot. We are bringing it up to a boil. As soon as it gets up to a boil, we're gonna turn the temperature down and leave it at a simmer. I really recommend that you do not use a lid. It will take longer for it to cook down. This is really nice. This is a Splatter Guard, and it just sits on top of the pan like this, and it will, you know, keep your cook area clean and keep yourself from getting splattered with molten hot tomato sauce. So I'm gonna take this opportunity just to share a couple of things with you. I don't add anything to my sauce as it's cooking down. You may decide you want to put some spices in it. I prefer to spice my sauce when I open my jars for whatever particular meal I'm going to be using, because some things I want dill and some things I, want, more spicy or whatever the situation is. So I like to leave my tomato sauce base completely plain. As far as spices go, I actually don't even add salt to mine. And it's at this point that you can decide how thick you want your sauce to be. I like mine about the consistency of maybe tomato soup, so not too thick. And the reason why I do that is there are some recipes that I actually need my sauce to cook down even further. And this just is a nice base for me. You can cook yours down to whatever thickness or runniness that you like for yourself. And that preference is gonna determine how long your sauce is on the stove. I'm guessing I'll probably let this simmer for about an hour and we'll see where we're at. Because I used paste tomatoes predominantly, I did put in one bowl full of grape tomatoes, but predominantly I use paste tomatoes. So this sauce is already a little bit thick. Not thick like, what's that? Not as thick as strained tomatoes that you would get from the grocery store if you've ever bought those before. It's a little bit thinner than that. And I typically, when I don't have my own sauce, that's what I use, is just organic strained tomatoes, and I cook it down myself when I'm making my meals. So I'm not gonna go crazy thick. If you wanna go crazy thick, I think you might wanna plan on a couple of hours for it to cook down for a batch like this. And there's a lot of schools of thought as far as, what's the best way to do that. A lot of people just put it in the crock pot and let it do its thing. Me, I like to do it on the stovetop. Just because I can keep an eye on it and I can make 100% sure that the bottom doesn't get scorched, because I hate the taste of burnt food. I mean, one of my kids loves it, which is so weird. If I burn my toast, she's my girl. But for me, I can't handle it. So I'm gonna stand pretty close to the kitchen. I have some other things I'm gonna do, which is why it's just gonna simmer here and do its thing. I'll come in every once in a while and just give it a little stir, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pot. That's my phone going off. Sorry about the noise in the background. Okay, that's where we're at. I'm gonna go ahead and just let this do its thing. I'll check back in an hour. If it's not ready yet, I'll just take a photo so that you can see it in the timeline. And once it's all the way cooked down to my preference, we'll go ahead and get those in the jars and get them canned up. All right, I'll see you soon. The last picture you just saw was the 1 hour mark of how this sauce is cooking down. It's not quite the consistency that I'm looking for, so I'm gonna go ahead and just give it 30 minutes more and we'll see where we're at. And we're back. You saw the photo of how much this sauce has cooked down. It's maybe 50% less than it was, and it's time to put them in jars. So what you can't see in this video is all of my jars are cleaned and ready to go. The rings are clean. You may be able to see that my lids are also clean. I have a bubble popper slash oh, so much water. Bubble popper slash lid lifter here. I like to set it here on my microwave. I have a funnel, some lemon juice, and a wet paper towel to wipe the rings. Some people use vinegar instead of water. I don't, but it's entirely up to you. I also have my canner here. This is a water bath process today. I will do another video on pressure canning tomato sauce, but today it's a water bath. I have the heat turned up to a medium high on the canner just to get the water heated up. It is really high with water. So when you're water bathing, you want to have 1 to 2 inches of water above the top of your jars. So sorry for the jiggling, but I'm going to just take you over to show you what that looks like. And I'll show you what it looks like after we put the jars in. So let's get these filled. We are using pint jars today. And the first thing we're going to do is put a tablespoon of lemon juice into the jar. I know there's some controversy as to whether or not you need to use lemon juice and whether or not you need to use a tablespoon or more or less. I'm just going to err on the side of caution for this video, and we're going to go ahead and do it this way. I encourage you to seek out your own recipe. I am adapting this recipe from the Amish Canning Cookbook, which is one of my favorites. I've been using that cookbook for years, and it has always been wonderfully successful. Right, I have a ladle here with my funnel, and we're just going to fill up these jars. And we're going to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace. So like these bubble poppers, they come with like a little measuring doodad on the ends of them. I don't use them, I just eyeball it. It's never been a problem for me, but I recommend that you get one if you're concerned about not having proper headspace. So a 1/2 inch would be right up to the second line here. And that's where we're at. Next step is to take your bubble popper and slide along the outside edge of the jar. Maybe squish in between in the middle a little bit. Then you'll take your wet paper towel, vinegar or water, whichever you're doing, and wipe the rim. One of the biggest reasons why your jars won't seal is because there's a tiny bit of food on the rim that you can't see. And I know I didn't cover this before, but since we're together, I'll tell you, every time you wash your jars, make sure you just run your finger around the rim of the jar to make sure there's not any little micro chips or anything like that, because that will also cause your jar not to seal. Then you put your ring on. And only finger tight. So you don't want to reef it down with all the strength that you have. Finger tight is good enough. One thing I want to mention is to reduce thermal shock, you'll want to use warm jars, warm food with warm canning water. Alternatively, you could do Cold food, cold jars, cold canner. Okay, now that we have our jars all filled, we're going to very gently place them into the canner. All of our jars are in, and you can see that there is water above the jars about 2 inches, and that's what we're looking for. This is going to run for quite some time, so it's important that we have the proper water level. I currently have the canner all the way up to high. I just want to get this water heated up pretty quickly. As soon as it gets to a boil, we'll go to the next step. You'll notice that I'm using my pressure canner as a water bath, and I have taken out the emergency plug, and I will not be using the pressure regulator. I use this because it gets up to heat pretty fast, and it does a really great job. So I'm going to put the lid on as it's heating up. It comes to a full rolling boil, not a simmer, you guys, a full rolling boil. I'm gonna set the timer for 40 minutes and I'm just gonna let this cook. Okay, I'm gonna show you the rolling boil. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, so I've already started my timer. We're at 33 minutes right now of a total of 40 minutes. And there you go. That's what a full rolling boil looks like. I'm gonna put this lid back on, and I will see you after the timer goes off in 32 minutes and 55 seconds. Okay, we have turned the heat off, the timer went off. We're going to be very careful to open this lid away from our face so we do not burn ourselves with the steam. And some water will drip out of the front, so watch your toes if you're barefoot. What we're gonna do now is just set a timer for 5 minutes and just let this cool off. Typically, I would move this whole pot to another burner, but it's almost full, it's extremely heavy, and we have other pots going for dinner that we're making tonight. So I'm really just gonna let this rest for 5 minutes, and then we will take these jars out of the canner and we'll put them here on this towel. The reason for the towel is to protect the jars from thermal shock, which I talked to you about earlier. It's the same premise. If we have really super hot jars and we put them on a tile counter, then that coldness can really break the jars. And I'm kind of giggling a little bit right now, but that's because I don't have a furnace. And we're at the beginning of fall here right now, and it's actually super cold in my house, which is why I am all bundled up in a sweater, even though outside it did get to about 70 degrees. My house is about 63 degrees. No, I don't have air conditioning. I just don't have heat. So it's really imperative that you go ahead and just put a towel down if you have a granite countertop or stone or tile or anything like that. Really in any weather, but especially if, you know, I have this boiling pot and it's 63 degrees in my house, it's really important that we protect the jars from that massive change of temperature. So it's 2 minutes and 30 seconds on my handy dandy timer, and then we're gonna take these out and set them on my towel. Be right back. Okay, the timer has gone off, and we're going to take the jars out of the canner. Also, I just turned off my fan, so maybe you can actually hear me now. So you might see me tipping the jars Typically you do not want to tip your jars. I have this giant microwave. It's just a cluster. Anyway, normally when you take your jars out of your canner, you want to lift them straight up and onto your towel. The water that is on the lids will evaporate very quickly. Here are our jars. We're gonna let them rest for 12 to 24 hours. I will check back in on these and you tomorrow to see if they sealed, and then we'll talk about labeling and what to do with them next. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, we're back and these have cooled off, and now it's time to make sure they sealed and get them ready for the pantry. So we'll just take the lids off. We'll take the rings off. I store mine without the rings on. It's just an added protection against false seal. And, just push on them. Do they pop? No, they don't. Just pick each one up by the lid, making sure that the seals are firm in there. Take a wet rag and just wipe down your jars, especially around the lid here. That's where, oh my gosh, I'm slamming things around. Sorry, guess I'm a little amped up this morning. Anyway, the purpose of cleaning the jars is, and especially around the lid here, is in case there's any food that's siphoned out. And I have a stuffy nose too. I sound like nasally today. I'm just a mess, you guys. I'm a mess today. Anyway, purpose of cleaning the jars is so that food that might be stuck on the outside doesn't mold and get nasty. Okay. All right, now that they're clean, can dry them off or let them air dry, whatever is easy for you. I'm drying them because I'm in this big hairy hurry to get them put away so I can start another project. Okay. Right. Once your jars are clean and dry, it is time to date them. This is important so that you can pull from your older stash and just save these for after you've used up what you already have. In my case, if you've been following me for any length of time, you probably know that my entire crop of tomatoes last year was destroyed due to blight. So that's why I'm so excited about this year, even though it was really, really dry. In our area, it typically rains quite a bit. It was really dry this year, but my tomatoes and my peppers, beautiful. Okay, and the date. Now that you've got your dates on, it's time to get the labels on. I use dissolvable labels, they're amazing. And there you go. That's all there is to it. Thank you so much for watching my video on how to can your own tomato sauce water bath style. I hope it was beneficial to you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I wish you all good luck in your canning. See you next time.